Welcome into Payton's Play, the podcast that merges sports betting and sports media. I'm Meghan Payton. We have picks, props, and pros, a full slate of divisional NFL playoff game. NFL Divisional Round doesn't sound as cool as like Super Wildcard Weekend. I've been thinking about that this week going on different shows. We have a four-time Pro Bowler, Super Bowl champ, Walter Payton Man of the Year, Andrew Whitworth, joining us today for episode 2. Excited to talk through these games with you, get your takes, and get Andrew Whitworth's takes on these playoff games. But without further ado, let's go into our NFL picks. Let's talk divisional round. First game on the slate, that is Saturday. Jags at Chiefs. Kickoff at 4:30 p.m. Eastern. Chiefs are an 8.5-point favorite, and the total's at 53. Before we break down this game, I think we got to do like a little pat on our back because we went 6 of 6 in wildcard weekend for our picks. We were 1 of 2 on the player props. I'm going to try to throw some more player props at you this week just so we can have more to choose from. All right, Jags at Chiefs. I'm taking Chiefs to cover 8.5 points. You're seeing some sports books already up to 9.5. I wouldn't really go past 8.5. The Chiefs are fantastic. There's not many teams that can match the star power, the fireworks show that is Patrick Mahomes. Chiefs are number 1 in yards per game, number 1 in points per game, number 1 in passing yards per game, second and third down conversions. They have a superstar tight end in Travis Kelce, by the way. And the Jags, on the other hand, they allowed over 1,000 receiving yards to tight ends this season. Tight ends average 13.1 yards per reception. That is not a stat you want to hear when you're going to be going up against one of the greatest in Travis Kelce. Even if they are able to stop Travis Kelce, that's going to leave a lot of wide receivers open like Juju Smith-Schuster, Marquez Valdez-Scantling. I think the star power and Cinderella story for the Jacksonville Jags ends this week. I'm taking Chiefs money line. Lay the points, though, at 8.5. Don't go much higher than that. Kansas City keeps on going. All right, up next, we've got Giants at Eagles. This is two teams that know each other very well. Kickoff Saturday, 8:15 p.m. Eastern time. Eagles are a 7.5-point favorite, and the total's at 48. I'm looking at Eagles money line, but I'm shying away from the spread. It's really hard to convince me to lay more than a touchdown worth of points with two teams that know each other this well. Divisional matchups, I don't really care what Vegas says. For me, it's just so hard because these two teams know each other's playbook. They know their style of play. Granted, the Eagles did sweep the Giants this regular season, but 2 weeks ago, the Giants were resting their starters. Back in December, the Eagles won 48-22. I don't know. You look at the Eagles here, they're top 5 in every offensive measure: rushing, passing, third downs. Their defense is a lot better than who the Giants had to go through last week, which was the Vikings. The Eagles are number 1 in pass defense. Daniel Jones looked like a Pro Bowl quarterback out there against a Vikings defense. It's going to be a lot harder against a Phillies team that is pretty complete. Now, Jalen Hurts' injury coming back, how healthy he's going to be. I know we're not going to see 100% out of Jalen Hurts. And if the Eagles are up winning, they're not going to want to use him that much. They're going to want to keep him healthy. I'm not going to lay the 7.5 points, but take Philly to win this one. All right, up next for Sunday slate, we've got the Bengals at Bills. Kickoff 3 p.m. Eastern. This line has been moving a bunch. It opened as Bills minus 3.5, and now we're seeing at Bills minus 5.5. The total's at 49. I'm taking Bills minus 5.5. These are two very hot teams. I mean, two of the hottest teams we've seen in the playoffs. Bengals have won 9 straight in a row. Bills have won 8 straight in a row. This is the matchup that we didn't get to see a couple weeks ago, Monday night. It was canceled due to the emergency of safety Damar Hamlin collapsing on the field. We're happy to hear that he has been progressing well. Hopefully he'll be able to be out there with his teammates watching on the sideline. I think there's a lot more pressure on Buffalo. I think Buffalo has to win this game. Bills fans in the media are expecting a Buffalo Super Bowl. I mean, that's the requirement right now. Josh Allen had a lot of pressure on him last week, had played kind of sloppy. I mean, he had 2 interceptions. He fumbled the ball. But I like Bills to bounce back here. I've heard my dad say before, the best way to coach a game is when you win, but you win sloppy. So there's a lot of corrections that need to be done this week, and I think that they probably did that. I like Josh Allen in the playoffs. He's fantastic in the playoffs. The Bengals, by the way, are going to be without 3 of their starting offensive line. I don't know if you can come back from that. I'm really excited to get Andrew Whitworth's take on the Bengals and what they've had to go through on the O-line. It's too much to handle. I like Bills. I'm going to lay the 5.5 points here. All right, our last game for the divisional round is Cowboys at Niners. Kickoff Sunday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern. Niners are a 3.5-point favorite, and the total's at 46. I'm going Niners money line, but I do like Dallas to cover, so take Dallas points here. Both teams are top 6 in points per game, but they're also top 5 in points allowed per game. So I'm actually going to eye the under here as well. It's going to be a little bit of a slower pace game. The Niners are number 1 in points allowed per game. This is a really good defense. So Dallas is going to have a much harder time this week than they did last week against Tampa. Niners are the most complete team. I have them going into the Super Bowl. I expect them to probably play either the Chiefs or the Bills, but these two defenses have been really well. I actually have a player prop that I'm going to be eyeing in this game, but take Niners money line, close game. So take points with Dallas here at 3.5. That is it for our divisional picks. I'm excited to get into some player props with you guys. Time to eye some player props here. We did 1 for 2 on our podcast player props. I think I went 3 for 4 on some of my other shows, though. So I'm going to try to give you some more here. First one I'm looking at is in the Jags Chiefs game. Running back Travis Etienne over 17.5 receiving yards. Etienne has been fantastic when he gets the ball as a receiver. He averages 10 yards per reception. The over didn't hit last week, but the last time he played the Chiefs, he had 28 receiving yards. The Chiefs have not been good at stopping running backs in the passing game. Chiefs give up the league's worst 20-yard receiving yards per game to running backs. Etienne wins with force and speed. That's the player he is. The Jags might not come up with a win here against Kansas City, but they're going to be able to get points up on the board. And one of their best offensive weapons has been Travis Etienne. So take Etienne over 17.5 receiving yards. All right, let's switch over to Giants, Eagles. Talk about a team that does not do well against tight ends. That's the Giants. So I'm going to eye tight end Dallas Goedert over 50.5 receiving yards. Vegas is onto this one. I'll just tell you right now, I got this at 48.5. It's already moved up to 50.5. So if you like it, go get it now. I could see this going a bit higher. Goddard averages over 58 yards per game, so this feels a bit low to me. Granted, it is moving up. Goddard's a player where you can find creative ways for him to get the ball, get him in the end zone even. The Giants are really struggling against tight end. Last week, Vikings top tight end TJ Hawkinson had 129 receiving yards against this Giants team. PFF gives the Giants a coverage grade of second to last in the league against tight ends. So take Goddard over 50.5 receiving yards. All right, one last player prop I'm going to get into before we bring in the Super Bowl champ, Andrew Whitworth. Last one is running back Tony Pollard over 46.5 rushing yards. This is the exact same prop bet that we took last week. It's the same line. Let's run it back again. Tony Pollard had 77 rushing yards last week. He is the RB1 for this Dallas Cowboys offense. He's explosive. He creates gaps. He's able to break through tackles, create holes. He's averaging over 5 yards per carry. Yes, it's going to be a lot harder against this Niners run defense that's top 2 in the league. But still, last week, Seattle's running back Kenneth Walker, he rushed for over 60 yards. I like Tony Pollard here. Take over 46.5. That is enough of me talking. It is time for the best part of Peyton's Play, which is where we get to bring in an expert and pick their brain on all things football. So without further ado, let's welcome in Super Bowl champ, Walter Payton Man of the Year, 4-time Pro Bowler Andrew Whitworth.
Megan, what's going on? How we doing?
We're doing great. Thank you so much for coming on. I have to ask off the bat, any chance you're in Cincinnati right now? Any chance you're in Buffalo? Where are you?
No chance. I'm sitting outside. It's beautiful and another California day right now. I'm getting ready to go play some golf in a little while.
Well, it looks too sunny out there to be in Cincinnati or Buffalo. I've been watching a lot of the rumor mill this week. I know the Bengals wish you were out there. Were there any thoughts of you potentially going back for the playoffs?
I think throughout the year, there's been a couple left tackles that, you've had some situations where they've gotten injured on good teams where, obviously it crosses your mind. I mean, you think about it a little bit, but every time it always kind of came back down to I'm really happy being exactly where I am. I'm enjoying being at home with the fam and had a blast this fall, doing stuff for TNF and NFL on Prime. So I'm loving where I'm at, being where my feet are, and it's always going to be that little itch. You think you want to do it, but when I stand up, I remember what I feel like, and the answer is no.
Well, Andrew, you have had such an amazing, successful career and now have done fantastic jumping into the broadcast. I know everyone over there has been excited to have you. Can you explain to me just the massive transition it is from playing so long in the NFL, winning a Super Bowl, riding off into the sunset? Not many people get to do it that way. And then what it's been like for you jumping into a broadcast this year.
Well, I think there's a lot of things that have been so exciting about this last year. I mean, obviously, the opportunity to be the Walter Payton Man of the Year and then become a Super Bowl champion was unbelievable. It's something that's just such an honor and humbling for our family. And I think we still, right now, it's hard to believe it's true and hard to believe it happened as a wild ride. And then to really go from that to retiring to something that's all you've done for the last 25 years of my life is play football and strap on pads. This August, sitting there not being in a training camp when I think the last time I was not in a training camp, I was probably 12 years old or something, in the month of August, was a wild feeling. But, then going into doing that and getting into being an analyst and covering the game, I don't know if I really knew how much fun I'd have this fall, week to week, having a chance to cover games and dive into the two teams and what makes them good and special. And then also with the crew I got to do it with our whole team. I had an absolute blast. It was so much fun diving into football in a new, total different way than playing the game.
I know my dad has mentioned like that locker room feel and kind of recreating that in the TV world. So he's mentioned a bunch, like being with Fox this year, that crew just becomes like that. Those are your teammates. Would you say you can relate to that with your teammates over at Amazon?
Yeah, I mean, you look at it. I mean, he's obviously had the chance as well to work with Carissa. I mean, she's an absolute champion.
Yeah.
She's the best. I couldn't be more thankful for her. But then with Tony, Gonzalez, and then Richard Sherman and Ryan Fitzpatrick, you look at it with Ryan and Sherman and I especially, like, right off the field, all just coming off the field and just playing. So there's just so many things for us. Football and being on the field is so fresh for us, and we kind of understand the schemes and the concepts and everything that everybody's doing right now currently in the game. And so that's been a lot of fun to jump right into something new with those guys. And then Tony, obviously being one of the greatest to ever play his position, probably the greatest at, in the history of the game. It's just a lot of fun. And then everyone off the camera too. I think your dad would say the same thing. Just getting to know those people, your new locker room, your new relationships, the new way you lean on different people in your life. That's what you miss the most when you step away from NFL football. And those locker rooms, those meetings, that time together, that camaraderie and bond you have is really special. And so to have a whole new team now this fall that I developed with TNF, it was a blast. And I can't wait, honestly, till next year. I'm bored. I need something to do.
That's what I was. Okay, so now it's off season. What is the next few months? What does the future look like for Andrew Whitworth?
Right now it's been a lot of fun. I was able to do a little bit of both, doing some of the analyst work with Amazon and NFL on Prime, but then also getting a chance for the first time ever to coach my kids' teams and be at all their sporting events, throughout the week and on the weekends. That was a lot of fun. One of my oldest daughters playing volleyball, my youngest daughter's playing soccer, and now some softball. And then my two boys have been playing kind of a mix of everything. So coaching their teams, getting a part of being, watching them have fun and not necessarily living through them, but getting to enjoy and feel that competition through my kids and watching them have that desire to go be good at something is a lot of fun. So I've gotten to do that. And then outside of that, it's just really going to be just chilling out, hanging out with Melissa, my wife, and just us enjoying some time. I don't really feel like last year, if you think about the Super Bowl, going through that, retiring, and then kind of moving into the analyst world and with TNF, I don't know if we really had a true, all right, you're retired or football's over moment because everything went so fast. And I think now we're really officially like, her and I are trying to like, hey, what do we do every day to hang out and ways we can go chill together and find things we want to do again that we didn't really have the opportunity to do while I played. So that part's been really fun, reconnecting and just kind of finding ways that the next 10, 20, 30 years of our life looks like together.
Well, I know personally you have one of the best families I've ever met. Could you see yourself in the future going into coaching?
It's been asked a lot. I've actually this offseason, funny enough, had a bunch of different guys kind of throughout the league reach out and just kind of get a little nudge, like, hey,
Get a
is there
feel?
any interest there? Yeah, just a little, hey, is there some interest? I love the game. I love it from that that totality point of everything big, the big picture, and then also the small things like teaching guys how to be really successful at what they do. And so I'll always have a coach's heart. I don't know if I'll at this point and what I've really done in my career and then now have this opportunity to be an analyst. I don't know if I'll ever jump back into coaching just because I think that's something maybe you start off having the mindset to do sooner in life. But right now at this age with my kids and everything else, maybe it's something when they go to college or something I would be more willing to do. But I enjoy my free time and having a chance to be a part of their sports right now. So that's a lot of fun. Now, I think I'll always have opportunities there to get back in the game. I have enough relationships that if I want to, I'll try my best. But that would be a lot of fun too. I think this, two things can be true at the same time. I would have a blast coaching football, being a part of an organization. I think that's the way my brain's always kind of been, even when I was a player. I was always thinking about what our next move is as a team, as an organization, through players, through contracts, through the draft, everything else. So I'm not going to say, obviously, which I've revealed in this one comment. I've obviously have an interest in it. I just, right now, I'm fighting it off.
Hey, that's completely fair, and you are well deservingly going to be able to enjoy some time with some family. But we are going to use your expert brain right now because we've got divisional round of playoffs coming up, 4 games on the slate. I'm excited to hear your breakdown of these 4 games. But first and foremost, what's going on with the Bengals? Can they come back from not having their 3 of their starting linemen out there, no 2 of their best tackles? Their guard is out. Can they come back from this, Whit?
It's going to be tough. I mean, they were my pick. I mean, if you'd have said week 17, 16, 15, where were you looking at the last part of the year that you're really saying, this is going to be your Super Bowl prediction if you're going to make one? I really thought, based off of how teams were playing, momentum, really the way their teams are moving through health and everything else, I really thought it's a possibility being the Niners-Bengals, a rematch of Super Bowls many years ago. And, I that was my pick. And then now it's going to be tough. I mean, to think that you got to get through 2 AFC opponents back-to-back that are going to be really good no matter who it ends up being, with 3 starting offensive linemen out of the lineup. And it'd be different if they were a little bit different team. If they were a run-oriented team where it was really built through multiple personnels and, a running quarterback or something where you thought there'd be some kind of variant there that could still help you. But you know what? They're a drop back, throw it around, let Joe Burrow work his magic type of team. And he's obviously proven with pressure and sacks and everything, he can still win a lot of games. He did it last year in the playoffs. I mean, I think they broke playoff records from his sacks they gave up getting to the Super Bowl. So he can do it, but it makes me feel a little less confident that it's possible. I don't know if they can overcome it with the 2 tough teams they're going to have in front of them.
Even without Von Miller playing, it's going to be hard. Joe Burrow was sacked 4 times last week and hit 8. All right, it's time to get Whit's predictions. Let's get into who Andrew Whitworth has winning the divisional games. Who's going to hold the line, Andrew Whitworth? Let's start with our Saturday games. Who do you have for Kansas City Jags?
This was a fun one to me. I see this Jacksonville team being a little bit like Cincinnati last year. Young, talented, really confident. Could they go into these games? And if you look at how Cincinnati actually won last year, it was about turning the ball over early, staying hot. The defense found some opportunistic turnovers, and they played well enough in the big moments to win. So I really have tried to make the case that this Jacksonville team could somehow do that. But I really think Patrick Mahomes, he's been on a mission all year. Everyone said, without Tyreek, without all these things, you can't do it. I think they get it done. I think they get it done this week, but the Jags make it a tight game.
Ooh, but not coming back 27 points this time. I don't know. You can maybe do that against the Chargers team. A little bit harder against Andy Reid.
You got to be a really good football team to be able to do that. And so that's what scares you about Jacksonville. If you have that heart and mentality, I think if you've seen some of these breakdowns of Doug Peterson after that game, he just keeps preaching faith and belief. Just believe you can do it. And when you got a team that's confident and they believe they can win from any point differential and they believe in any situation they can win, they're dangerous. So to me, for Kansas City, this is one of the biggest games they're going to face in this playoffs because of really the momentum Jacksonville has going into it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm interested, before we switch over to the next one, everyone makes a big deal out of stats and, Andy Reid is 20-3 coming off of bye. Do coaches in the locker room address that to the players? Is that something that is a big deal when leading up into a game?
I think sometimes you can probably say that coaches, maybe your front office, your GM, they might have a plan for, hey, when they're talking about some of these things, if you're coming off certain, road trips to the West Coast or East Coast, and there's certain things that you look at through analytics or whatever it say that you might perform better or worse depending on this or that. There might be some discussion there.
Right.
I don't know if that really gets brought to the players very often. I think time to time, maybe it's a challenge. But I think really in this situation, it's about the playoffs. It's about the 3 hour window. Who can be the best team in that window? It doesn't matter what our record is. It doesn't matter what anybody's done to this point. Who wins in this window and who has the focus to get it done? And I think to me, that's why this game is dangerous, because Jacksonville's hot and Kansas City's been sitting around for a week waiting for this op. The nerves will be up, but can they play well with all this momentum that Jacksonville will come in with?
Yeah, that's the best part of the NFL. It's one and done. We're not doing best of 7, any of that here in the league. All right, next up on our Saturday slate, we've got the Giants at the Eagles. These two teams know each other really well. Do you expect a close one in this matchup?
I think the Giants will battle early. They're a tough physical football team. I just think Philly's too much for them. I mean, if you look at really the Giants and what they were able to do with the Vikings, you have to go back and look through the season and see that, the Vikings have really struggled defensively all year long. They've had some opportunities where teams that were bad on offense and hadn't been doing anything had their biggest games against them. So I just think that maybe the Giants, it's great they got a playoff win. It was an awesome performance. I think it had a little more to do with the Minnesota defense and who they've been as a team this year. And I think this game, they're going to be just outmanned. That Philadelphia is too talented. Lane Johnson's back. That offensive line is going to be dominated, and they're going to run the football and throw it. And they're just so balanced. I mean, Minnesota was so one-sided compared to what they're facing this week. The balance of Philadelphia's offense and the way they shut down Saquon, not just a month ago, I think Philly's going to be too much for them.
Fly, Eagles, fly. Okay, we've got a Sunday slate here. This is the one that everyone's going to be interested to hear your perspective on. The Bengals at the Bills. We just discussed some of the offensive line issues and the troubles that they're going to have. So what is your final score prediction for Bengals at Bills?
I think that this one's going to be tough for me because I think these last two, the Sunday games, are the toughest. I think every day this week, if I've talked to somebody, I think I've flipped my opinion on who I think's winning. It's every day I talk myself into one thing or the other. Right. But in this game, I feel like it's interesting. Buffalo has so many things to play for. Everything that's gone on in the last month for them, there's just so much there. But Cincinnati kind of is the same. I mean, they were in that game as well. Everything that went on there. And really, I think the emotions that'll be a part of this game to start it, that you really never can predict when athletes are playing with so much emotion. There were so many things that all these guys went through, and they're going to have to go right back through just stepping out there on that field in this emotional moment with everything with Damar Hamlin. So you're going to have some emotions in the beginning of this game, but it's really going to come down to, really the deficiencies. And for me, yeah. I got to see Cincinnati's O-line find a way to block this front, because different than Baltimore – this group here, Baltimore's a lot of stand-up rushers. They do a lot of walking around. Get off and those things are a little different for a tackle. When you walk into Buffalo, it's going to be noise. It's going to be silent count. Yeah. And you're going to have a defense that they don't really do that. Their thing is get off. How fast can we get off the football? How much penetration can we get in the backfield? And that is a huge difference for an offensive lineman in those different styles. You don't get a chance to kind of play power football. It's about, can you move your feet in the noise and can you stay up with these rushers? They're going to be challenged, and they're going to have to. I think the only way I could see Cincinnati win this game is if they can run the football well. I just think this is going to be a big challenge for them. I think Buffalo takes it.
No, wait, we can't be saying that, but I do agree with you. It's hard. This is it's a Buffalo team, by the way, that's 12-13 in their last home games. However, both these teams are like the hottest teams in the playoffs right now. Bengals 9 wins in a row, Buffalo 8 wins in a row. But as you mentioned, it's going to be a big emotional night for this game that didn't happen a couple weeks ago due to the emergency injury and situation with Damar Hamlin. But Andrew Whitworth has Buffalo Bills in this one. It's crushing. Okay, last game on our divisional slate is Cowboys at Niners. this is hard because you've got a Cowboys team that absolutely demolished the Bucs last week, and a Niners team that to me seems like the most complete team, even with a rookie quarterback. What's your take here?
Oh, this is my definite one. Every morning I've flipped when I wake up who's going to win. I think sometimes you get obsessing about this stuff. The first thing I think when I wake up is who I think's winning these playoff games. So this one I've gone back and forth, and you know what? I almost fell for the Cowboys playing Tampa, and I think at the end of the day, I go back to what I said about the Giants playing Minnesota. I just every day I change on this. I think yesterday I told people on air I was going with the Vikings. I mean, with the Vikings with the Cowboys, but I think it's like the Vikings. Tampa wasn't that good. Dallas looked good against a team that hasn't played that well. And the San Francisco 49ers, man, I'm the biggest Nick Bosa fan in the world, and that defense is so special. They've got special athletes at every level of the defense. They're going to be tough to beat in the playoffs, and I'll always ride with defense in the playoffs. So I think the Niners take this down. Today I woke up, it's the Niners. I don't know what I might have told you yesterday, but the Niners are winning.
Hey. That's all that matters. I'm with you too. San Francisco, I even think that they could make a Super Bowl push here in the long run. That is Andrew Whitworth's picks for the divisional round. Before we let you go, you were the best in your position. And so you have this offensive mind, unlike others. I think a lot of people would be interested to know, who do you think are some of the best blindside blockers currently playing in the league?
I think there's some really good ones right now. I think it's a lot of fun. It's a mixture too. I mean, guys that I would say, when I played, you always looked throughout the league and tried to find the guys that you thought were the most athletic, that maybe were having the biggest effect in the run game and screen game and out in space, and kind of those dynamic blocks that you love to see. And then also the most consistent, just play in and play out. They block their guy, they handle their job, and in the pass game, they just lock people down in pass pro. I think really for the older guys, I mean, Trent Williams is still the guy. I mean, he's unbelievable. Yeah. He continues to be so dominant in both phases of the game, and that's what really makes him that. There's guys you could argue, hey, they've been good in pass protection this year. They've done a great job, but Trent's the most dominant in both, and that's just the truth. There's not a phase of the game he doesn't dominate. So he's my favorite to watch, always has been that way. I thought Laramie Tunzel had an insane year. I mean, I thought he played really well against really good opponents and was one-on-one in those situations a lot without any help and just handled his business. But I think there's other guys. There's young guys to me that are exciting to get about. I think Teron Armstead, of course, another vet who's always been a really good player, was a big part to me of that Dolphins team and how they were so good. Is when you bring in a guy like him with his talent and leadership, it matters. But then when you get to the young guys, I look at Christian Darrisaw. I mean, what a year for a young guy, man. Looked really good, really physical, handled his business. Just you can tell the game. I always look at strength and their ability to move and still have power and get their feet in the ground, and he's got it, man. He plays anchored and in the ground a lot. He's going to be a really special left tackle in this league. And I also thought Andrew Thomas, had a really good year. I mean, I thought he was very productive in every phase of the game. And I think that he's one of those guys that maybe has less splash plays compared to a Darrisaw or maybe a Trent, some of these guys where he's just, annihilating people, but he's just so consistent, snap in and snap out. I thought he had a really good year too. So for the left tackles, that's my jam. And then, I think Tristan Wirfs and obviously Lane Johnson's the guy. I mean, there's not anybody better than Lane, in my opinion, at the right tackle position. He does it all so well. He's an unbelievable player, and I'm a huge fan of his. And I think Tristan Wirfs is going to be a stud for a really long time. He's a really good football player.
Andrew Whitworth, that is Walter Payton Man of the Year, Super Bowl champ, 4-time Pro Bowler, and a ton other accolades that could take up a whole episode on itself. We are so thankful that you came on and joined us here at Payton's Play. Good luck on all your predictions this week, and thanks again for taking the time.
Megan, thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity. Let's have a great weekend. It's playoff football. Let's go.
Let's do it. That will wrap it up for today's episode of Payton's Play Divisional Round. We're so great to have Andrew Whitworth on here. Honestly, to just pick these minds of the NFL that just have so much knowledge. We're grateful that he joined us, and we're grateful that you guys are watching us each week. If you have not already, make sure that you go and hit the subscribe button on YouTube so you do not miss out on any more episodes that we do. You can do notifications on there. Go into the comments, let us know what else that you'd like to see here at Payton's Place. And shout out, by the way, to Eric, our producer here at Payton's Play, who created these amazing graphics and make sure this runs smoothly each week. Thank you all for joining us. Catch us here next time on Peyton's Play.